to order at 4:00 even. We have the minutes from the last meeting. I would move that they be approved. There is a typo that Dave is going to correct.
I will.
Past tense in the discussion of the library stuff. All right, we also have personnel transactions.
Dan's coming.
Do I hear a motion to accept them?
Hey there.
There he is.
Real quick on the personnel transactions, the one thing I would like to point out is we have our first examples of the new law that affects probation for provisional employees. So Gwyneth Germond, we established the list for administrative specialist, and she was appointed and immediately went to appointed. She had no probationary period. So that is the first example of that. So I went ahead and I put that in the notes, that's why there's no probationary period. And Donna Foote is also being affected by that. Her provisional appointment was in February of 2023, therefore her probationary period cannot extend past February of 2023. So I want you both to be, I want the commission to be aware that we are recognizing the new law that went into effect in October. So,
Motion to accept.
So moved. Second.
right.
Correspondence, Mr. Dave.
Okay. So we had a request come in for us to complete a survey about training and experience exams, which was very short and simple, just asking which ones we utilize, how often we utilize them, and how many candidates we tend to get. We had something very similar to this that became a survey that led to the HELP program. So I'm hoping they're looking at utilizing better utilization of the T&E, and that's why we're receiving this survey. So, but I did answer the survey timely. So the other piece of correspondence we got was our annual report analysis letter, which I don't ever remember them doing this before. Maybe Katie just didn't.
I've not seen one.
Yeah, I would think she would have shared them with us. But I think it was great that they're providing us this type of feedback. But I also felt like it warranted my response to what we've, a little preview of next year's annual report for them. So I shared not only the letter that we received from the state, giving us some feedback on the statistics that we provided as part of our annual report, but my response to them about how we've been addressing our provisional rate.
And I thought that was a good response, and it was brought them up to speed on where we were.
Yep. And then one additional piece of correspondence, which I just received today, so it's not in the packet. I did forward it to everybody. We received approval of our first resolution today. We did our resolutions in October, and the first one came back as approved, and it is Civilian Dispatcher Help Program. So we will now be able to appoint civilian dispatchers to the full-time competitive position without need for an exam, and we will be able to do that for the next year. And then after that, we'll be reverting back to the real competitive process. So anything that's, I know we have the potential of a dispatcher leaving, we'll be able to just advertise it and hire. We won't have to do a test. So that was good news that we've got our first one down, and hopefully 15 more to be approved coming up at their January meeting.
Every 2 months.
That's right. Yeah. So I did get the administrative review back on that one about 2 weeks sooner than I did the rest of them. So hopefully the rest of them are all going to the January meeting. That would be nice. So we'll see.
Right. No eligible lists
Nope.
at this point.
Yep.
And just give us the highlights on the exam status?
Was that not in here? Oh, here it is. You'll just see that we have a lot of new exams that have suddenly been scheduled. The most significant of them are Human Resources Director and Senior Human Resources Specialist. And we will need to make arrangements with the state to have another agency offer those exams, obviously.
Great, thank you. Police hiring process update.
All right, so I just want to give you a quick update on where we are. We approved the eligible list at our November meeting. Since then, we have interviewed 6 candidates, and we are proceeding with backgrounds on all 6. We are expecting to have the backgrounds completed. Hopefully, last time I talked to Detective Sergeant Tiemann, he was aiming for the first week of the year. So hopefully, in the next week or so, we'll have those backgrounds completed and be able to move forward with the process on these 6 folks. So hopefully we don't have any disqualifications to bring you in January, and we'll just be, but it's certainly a possibility that depending on how these backgrounds are coming, we may have some disqualifications for you for the next meeting, and we'll also hopefully before the next meeting be done with the psychologicals for these 6 candidates too, should we send all 6 for psychologicals, depending on how many get through the background.
When does the academy start?
I believe it's March 28th.
Okay, so there's, should be time.
Yep. So.
And firefighter.
Firefighting, the firefighter test we did announce, and we closed recruiting last week, and we ended up with 39 candidates. So not as strong as last year, but it's still a very good number.
70 last year?
58. Yep. So,
And that test is?
January 13th, hopefully to be held at the high school.
All right, moving on to new business. We've got a job spec in the,
So a little background on this. Our transit department has newly been certified to be able to train people to become bus drivers themselves. So instead of relying on BOCES, instead of relying on other agencies to hire our bus drivers, we are now, our transit department and our staff is now certified to get people to the point where they are ready to take the driver test. The program is the ELTA? ELDT is the which is the
Entry level driver training.
okay. So we're gonna start trying to bring people in that we think will make good bus drivers and train them to be bus drivers. The question is, what do we hire them as? We don't have a spec called bus driver trainee. They don't qualify to be hired as bus drivers because they don't have a license yet. So the solution that we came up with was to take our student worker job spec, which we use for the high school students that work in the parks every year. It is used for many of our paid internship programs. It is a very broad spec that is basically used to bring people in and have them be able to work in some capacity while they're a student. So these folks are going to be students in our program, so I simply, along with a couple of other additions to that job spec, put in there that is part of the qualifications to be a student worker, is that you be enrolled in our entry level, our ELDT program. We all know how hard it is to get a new job spec through the state commission as non-competitive. So I think this is a quicker way to address and get this program up and running, rather than coming up with a new bus driver trainee program and then going through the process of having that established as a non-competitive spec. So that's kind of the background and why we're looking to make these revisions to this specification.
understand should be capital A.
Ability to, this is,
Performance knowledge. First, because the first one was struck.
oh, yes, okay, good.
And I'm not certain about minimum qualifications, if you want to say education or degree, working towards a degree. I mean, you can get a certificate of attendance from Oneonta High School.
Okay,
I don't know if it matters, so, one way or the other. If I were
so
doing it,
cross off education and put in degree?
I would.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And with that, I'll move that we adopt the changes to the job spec. And is there a second, or is there discussion? I guess we need,
Second to discuss, right?
we need a second to discuss.
Second. I did not see any typos.
Okay.
All right.
All right, and then the second piece of new business that I wanted to bring forward is I wanted to discuss future holdings of the entry-level law enforcement exam. So I think we've gotten to the point where we all agree that we need to think about this test a little differently than we have in the past. So what I'm proposing moving forward is that we establish waiver and retest policies for future holdings of the police officer exam. So what I'm proposing for a retest policy is that we would allow anybody who were to fail their first attempt at the physical fitness test and ability to retest at a later date. And then for the waiver policy, what I am proposing, little history with the waiver policy. Part of the reason that we got rid of the waiver policy in the past was that we had a hire or two that occurred that we had accepted waivers on, and when we sent them to the academy, they very much were struggling with the physical fitness portion of the academy. And what got called into question was how the testing methodology that was used in their, by the local municipality that had done their physical fitness test. So we decided we wanted everybody to go through our physical fitness test because we knew what our standards were and we felt more comfortable with them passing ours. I think I know of local agencies that have methodologies that are not up to our standards. What I'm proposing for a waiver policy is that we establish a waiver policy, but we only accept waivers from New York State. So we're talking about UPD or New York State Troopers, any New York State agency that is doing a physical fitness test. The chief and I discussed it, and we both feel like that we can feel very confident that those tests are being held to our standard. And then the other scenario where we feel like we can have a lot of trust in the agency is if the physical fitness test was administered by a certified police academy. And if those cases come forward where somebody wants a waiver and at any point in the last calendar year they had passed a physical fitness test from such an agency, we would accept the waiver and we would not make them qualify by our agency. However, we would still not accept waivers from other local agencies. So, not that this is one of the agencies that we have a problem with, it's somebody we jointly, so like a waiver from Delaware County, we wouldn't accept it. A waiver from Erie County, we wouldn't accept it. It would only be folks that were from a certified police academy or from a New York State agency. So that's what we're proposing for future holdings of the entry-level law enforcement exams. Is there anything you'd like to add, Chief?
We've seen this happen where they've had non-DCJS certified people, like a physician, administer a physical fitness battery, given the parameters that are listed in New York State, and they'll put them on a treadmill as opposed to run. They don't follow
I know the two examples that I had heard of, and I know still are practice, I know of one agency where it's the actual clerical staff of the city, the civil service agency that's administering the test. It's not somebody that's certified in physical fitness like we do. And another example that I've heard of a methodology that I don't think is something that would be up to our standards is I've heard of a certain municipality that actually pairs the candidates up and has them count each other's push-ups and sit-ups. So those are the examples of practices why I still have concerns about certain local agencies out there. Yeah. And again, those aren't any agencies that are immediately local to us, but
Your motion identifies the state and the justice. What I'm wondering is if I'm a candidate and I pass this test by one of the certified, recognized, but in the last 6 months I've gotten dramatically out of shape. Do I have standing? I mean, it does say may. What are the criteria for the city saying the waiver has been accepted?
that's kind of, we do put the 1 year limit on it. I think if there's concerns that somebody could fall out of shape in less time than that, I think we'd be open to maybe making that window a little smaller if,
So they had to have had that exam within a year?
Yes.
To get the waiver?
yeah.
And even our fitness test, when it's administered, can be up to 6 months before they end up going to an academy. So there's still a period of time where if they let themselves go to the point where they can't pass the entry-level physical fitness exam for the academy, that's a completely different issue. They have to test to get into the academy as well. It's also part of it.
The other part of that question though is on, what are we using to say the waiver's approved or the waiver's denied?
Just evidence from, so like if they come to us and they say, hey, I passed this, with New York State, I was testing for the troopers, and I was processing with them and didn't get selected, can you accept this waiver? Then I'd ask them to contact the administration that had administered the exam, the agency that handled and ask them to send me the results. So we would then see how many push-ups, what the time of the run was, how many sit-ups. So basically it's a pass-fail thing, and all we're looking to do is see that they passed. The thing about this as opposed to the fire scenario is the elements of the test and the number of push-ups, sit-ups, that's all standardized across the state. The department, what's the name of the agency that sets that standard?
Department of Criminal Justice Services and
Municipal Training Council. The Municipal Training Council makes sure that those standards are the same everywhere. So it's not a scenario where, like we had with the firefighter physical agility test, where one agency may be having this set of skills and the other one might be having other. So it's really just a matter of, can you provide us proof that you passed this test, which is the exact same as ours, within the last year? And if the answer is yes, then we would not test them ourselves.
And who signs the waiver?
The waiver would be, it's not, the waiver necessarily wouldn't be a signed document. It would just be us saying we are waiving that we are saying that we are waiving that element of the exam announcement that says you need to pass this test.
And we would be the police department?
No, the civil service. Yeah, in my role as secretary.
So we would be getting these waiver requests?
Yep. Yep. So they would request to have the waiver, and I would tell them what they have to do, and then I would only accept the results from the agency. I wouldn't allow the candidate to get the results from the agency and give them to me. My instructions to them would be, call the agency and tell them to fax it or email it to me, and I would get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
No, I only I only printed it for you so that you'd be able to read it into the record and, yeah.
Okay, do that before the executive session, because this goes into the future, not
What we're
into
gonna be
the past.
discussing in the executive session has to do with past exams, correct? Yep.
All right,
This motion is what we just talked about,
This motion that he's about to read is applying to the 2024 and future holdings of the entry-level law enforcement exam. Yeah.
okay. So I'm moving that we adopt the following policies to be included on exam announcements for the future entry-level law enforcement exam holdings by the City of Oneonta Municipal Civil Service Commission. Qualifying physical fitness retest policy. The Oneonta Civil Service Commission allows for the physical fitness retesting of candidates. Candidates who fail the physical fitness test will be permitted one retest which will be given at a later date from the original physical fitness test. We're doing this as one motion, correct? Okay. Qualifying physical fitness waiver policy. The Oneonta Civil Service Commission has established a physical fitness waiver policy. If a candidate has passed a physical fitness screening test per the standards adopted by the Municipal Police Training Council administered by an agency of New York State, not including other civil divisions thereof, or by a certified New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services Police Academy in the last 1 year, the performance test may be waived. Candidates requesting waivers will be required to contact the agency which held their qualifying physical fitness test and request that results be submitted to the Oneonta Civil Service Commission. The results must include the name of the hosting agency, the date of the test, as well as an acknowledgement of a passing result. So moved.
Okay.
Any
Any
objections?
objections?
Question on it, just for clarity, on
Yeah.
the first part with the retest. You feel good about those sort of boundaries on it, it says it'll be on a future date, but don't you have some timelines to complete the evaluation process anyway, when you want to retest you within those boundaries, or is it sort of, when you work it, it'll be fine?
We want it to be one on a case-by-case basis and we want to give somebody a fair shot that if they need to go and do some work, they need to go do some work and get into the gym and be able to come back. But also, if it's somebody that really wants to be considered in the current hiring cycle and says, I know I can do this, let me come back in a week. I think we want to have that freedom to be able to evaluate and talk to the candidate, say, okay, if you wait 6 months, you're going to be out for this hiring cycle, but you might be involved. You might be, if we, for a future hiring cycle, in July. But at the same time, if there's somebody that we're really motivated, that they seem really motivated and they want to try again quickly, I think it should be something that the chief and the Civil Service Commission can discuss with them. But we want to make it clear it's not going to be, you just tried really hard, we're going to make you do it right now again. We want to make sure that it's clear to them that they don't have to do it then.
The outer limit of when that would be done.
Yeah.
Cycle.
I mean, regardless, like, let's say we actually had a really good recruitment year and we ended up, we ended up hiring and we still had a lot of people and we kept the list and we didn't actually have to hold another exam and we wanted to keep the ongoing list. That 1 year thing that we talk about on the other side of it is a standard that if we actually went more than a year and kept our list active, we would have to retest everybody before we started another cycle. So,
Yeah, we'll do the physical fitness test, even before we get the results back for
Yeah.
people that end up going and taking the test, right? So then the list gets certified in November, and we'll hire people for March. And then maybe, if we had the ability to hire people again, we could end up being in November again before we can get it, so we could potentially lapse that year period also.
yep.
So the physical fitness exam lapses after a year regardless of where the eligibility lists have fallen.
Yep.
And am I right in remembering that we did not have a retest policy because we used to have so many candidates that it was a burden for the testing officers?
A couple of reasons. So first of all, we had been given statistics from the state stating that from what they were seeing, that if somebody failed the initial one, it was about a 10% chance they would pass on a retest. And at the time, with very large lists, instead of retesting people that already failed, we wanted to be able to move further south on the list and evaluate new people. So that was part of the conversation about getting rid of the retest. Was not only was it takes a lot on their part, you know, to actually pay overtime to have, you know, at the time Detective Torres, you know, out there administering the test, but also on our part putting out the notices and giving the period where they can do an alternate test date request. And that's, so for a 10% chance, it was a lot of work. But beyond that, we also wanted to be able to move down into maybe, you know, there were testing cycles where we couldn't get past people that were 95s. You know, it's as far as we could get on the list is through the 95s, and then everybody that scored a 90 and below, we couldn't even get to because the lists were so large. That's not an issue anymore. So, yeah.
Now we're just trying to expand this out as much as we can to get to whoever we can.
Yeah, we want to give as many candidates as many different opportunities as possible. Yeah. So.
It was one correct, it wasn't an objection.
Mhm.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
We're good on this one?
All right, so end of discussion and a vote. We got 3, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So, move that we move into executive session at